Big welcome to all the viewers online to this special chat today with myself Samir Dhurde from IUCA, and I am also the International Astronomical Union's National Outreach Contact for Astronomy for India, and we have with us.
Hi, I'm Ramasamy Venugopal. So I work for the IAU's Office of Astronomy for Development based in Cape Town.
So we are here today to chat with you about a few calls for proposals about outreach and development projects which have come out. Now, these have come out from the International Astronomical Union. So maybe I could say a few words about the union itself. It was formed around 100 years ago in 1919. Therefore, next year, 2019, would be an important year for the union. It is a body of all astronomers around the world who have been practicing astronomy and leading to its growth and technological as well as academic growth in the world. It has a membership from many countries, and other than academic interests, there is also a big interest in outreach and education from the union. So we have all of these programs happening, but they happen through certain organized channels, which are like offices. There's an office of astronomy for outreach, which is located in Japan, and there's a special office for which is called the the International Astronomical Union's Office of Astronomy for Development, which is based in Cape Town, South Africa. That's where Ram is from, and all of these together, along with other outreach efforts around the world, play a big part in reaching astronomy to the people. Not just people in education sectors, but everywhere, all the people. So our goal is basically to unite the world to explore the universe. And this has been taken up as the motto for celebration of the coming year, 2019, which is the 100th year of the International Astronomical Union. So for this particular year, there have been a lot of brainstorming sessions happening and all over the world, and people have been thinking, how do we improve the status of astronomy, which is already a very popular science and everybody loves astronomy, but how do we improve its place in the society? How do we take astronomy in a better way to society? How can astronomers contribute to the improvement of things around us? Not just by telling people about what the universe is like and how what is our significance in the universe is, but also by playing an active role in some kind of development activities or outreach activities. So keeping that in mind, the OAD, of course, has been doing a lot of work for a few years now, but IAU also has put out a few calls for projects which would lead to a better understanding of astronomy by the people and a better reach of astronomers towards society. So today we are here, of course, to discuss two of these important calls which have just come out, and they have their own deadlines and their own ways of selection. However, we wanted the people who are listening to be able to formulate better proposals and respond to these calls and write out good projects which they may have in their minds in a way that will be read better and which will have a better chance of selection, because sometimes we have great ideas and we have a great network and everything, but the proposal lacks a little bit of that special touch. So that's what we'll discuss. So maybe we can first discuss the IAU100 special call which has come out, and then we can discuss the OAD call which has come out, and then we'll go on to how to write proposals. So let me tell you a little bit about the goals of the IAU100 celebration, which will happen next year. So this will increase awareness, and we look at progress and excitement in astronomy to be communicated better to the people. So it could be through collaborative efforts amongst astronomers or with technology people, and also we will coordinate the astronomy outreach efforts better in the next year. There's also the observing experiences are very beautiful through astronomy, so we'll try to get them to as many people as possible and get everybody to enjoy the beauty of the sky through small or big efforts, whatever is possible. There will be trials to there'll be efforts to support and improve the use of astronomy as a tool for education, development, and maybe even diplomacy. We will try to make it as inclusive and diverse as possible, and we will try to see if there's some kind of preservation of local culture, local nature possible through the use of astronomical knowledge. All this will of course have an impact, and this will raise the awareness, and maybe there will be new discussions starting in the society about roles of other sciences in social development. This is what we look at in the 100 years of astronomy. The Astronomical Union's 100th centenary. So this is what we are looking at celebrating in the next year, which is the centenary of the IAU, as well as 100 years of very active astronomy happening all over the world. So the call for proposal which has come out, I will just maybe draw your attention to this website here. So the website is listed on the form that we have given, and it has all the details given out, and you can see the endorsement process, the timelines, criteria for endorsement, grant amount, other considerations, special submission methods, etc. have all been mentioned on this website. I was also reading the goals of here. Now let me just draw your attention to the flagship programs, which is also another important thing which will be part of the themes which will be followed during this year. So IAU is trying to unite our world to explore the universe, and 2019 will be a special year, not just because IAU was founded, it's important to IAU, but in general because it is also the 100th anniversary of the 1919 solar eclipse, which led to the one of the great proofs of the general theory of relativity. It is also the 50th anniversary of the moon landing, which is a great feat for humankind, and we all need to celebrate that. So we'll be doing that, and we'll try to get the inspirational aspects of astronomy, of the common heritage of the sky, etc., to all the people around us. Now all this will come under this theme, and the goals of this theme would be to increase awareness of the progress and excitement in astronomy. These are the goals I just mentioned to you. Promote widespread access, support and improve use of astronomy in education, make the community more inclusive in its approach, facilitate preservation of some world's cultural and natural heritage, and raise awareness. So we come to the flagship programs, which will be the specific themes under which the global programs will happen. There will be big celebrations. So IAU, of course, will celebrate its existence, 100 years of its existence, and we will look out for the big programs where a lot of astronomers will come together and put their brains together for certain specific reasons. Of course, conferences happen all the time, but these will be special times during the year which will have IAU conferences, symposia, etc. happening all over the world. We will also have a special theme which is called Astronomy for Society. Now, you might be aware of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So this particular flagship program would look at programs or projects which actually have some relation with the Sustainable Development Goals, and therefore these would include astronomy but also include the goals of sustainable development, which I think would also fall in the category of projects under the Office of Astronomy for Development, which Ram will enlist very soon. We will have exhibitions. These are the ones which will draw a lot of attention because astronomical objects and astronomical discoveries have a lot of popular appeal. So the projects that are being called for might also be parts of an exhibition. there is a plan for a global exhibition which will be made by the IAU, and parts of it could come from any part of the world. Anybody could contribute to that. However, it has to be some relevant exhibit, and it has to be properly put into as a proposal. We'll also have a flagship program in which we'll foster a sense of global citizenship and critical thinking by encouraging people to think of where are we in this universe, right? We'll think about, are we alone? We'll of course discuss the latest developments on the front of discovery of exoplanets, and a lot of developments are happening on astrobiology. So these scientific developments could be clubbed in with this question, are we alone? And then we can get some critical thinking happening in the society. So we can look for projects which join these two and could be written as a proposal. We will have 100 years of general relativity, the eclipse. There's going to be an eclipse in this year as well, and therefore we'll celebrate that in a special region where the eclipse will happen. But of course, everybody in the world should be also able to celebrate it. So we will have a theme of the eclipse of 1919, and we'll try to see if there are projects which will have some relation to this and can include eclipses in some kind of way. We are also looking at the special natural and cultural heritages which are related to astronomy. All of us know that dark skies are very important, and our ancient people used to look at dark skies very often, much more than us, and they had a great respect for the objects in the sky. There's also a lot of cultural references to astronomical objects. Now we want to collect all these things and make it more evident to people now, because the latest developments in the society are kind of leading us to forget about these objects. So maybe if we can bring this forward, or if it could lead to the conservation of some particular heritage object. So we'll look at projects which could lead to this. Also, inclusive astronomy is a part of the flagship programs. Inclusive outreach means including everyone, and it is not just for people who could see or people who are disabled. It's to include everyone together and experience astronomy. So inclusive outreach could be a theme on which we could think of projects to do. There's of course astronomy for education, where a lot of activities happening all over the world have been centered on. Now this year we'll look at activities maybe more towards the grassroots levels, where people who are underrepresented or disadvantaged could also be part of astronomy for education. And of course we can all enjoy. So we will have star parties, and there can be projects which could be special star parties. Again, we could have relations with other flagship programs, and these star parties could be inclusive. They could have some relation to a heritage building or a theme, something like that, so there could be a lot of possibilities happening. So these are the flagships which are of course enlisted on the website as well, which you can look at. And through all this, I think we will have some of the special things happening in the next year. We have therefore, to address these flagship themes, a call for proposals. So this has just come out, and that's what the website is all about, where you will see various details of the call for proposals. Now these are small grants, around 2,500 euros, and they would look for special activities oriented towards grassroots levels. So please keep that in mind, and the deadline for these proposals to be submitted is June 15th. We'll of course reiterate all these things, but now let me pass the baton on to Ram to tell about the Office of Astronomy for Development, which is also putting out some calls for proposals.
Yeah, thanks, Samir. So the OAD, or the Office of Astronomy for Development, also runs its own call. So this is independent of the IAU100 call, and the OAD call has been run for every year since 2012. So the aim for this call is slightly different from a regular outreach funding proposal. So what we want to do is try to use astronomy, and when I mean astronomy, I mean the body of knowledge in astronomy, but also the people in astronomy, whether the professional astronomers, amateur astronomers, astronomy enthusiasts, as well as the tools and methods of astronomy. So use all these things in various ways to have a positive impact on society. So we call it development. So we call it using astronomy for development. And in defining development, we use the sustainable development goals that Samir mentioned. So these are the goals adopted by the UN, adopted by almost every country in the world. And these are the goals for the world until 2030. So these include things like reducing poverty, eliminating hunger, and addressing climate action, and a lot of other goals. So there are 17 goals, in fact. Now the question is always, what does astronomy have to do with ending hunger or any of the other goals? So in fact, the plan was drawn up 10 years ago. They plan to use astronomy for development, and the people who draw up the plan, the IAU, actually used this diagram to sort of encapsulate why astronomy is an effective tool to be used for development. It's because astronomy as a field is very, very interdisciplinary. So it links to science and research, of course, and various fields of science. So there's astrophysics, astrochemistry, astrobiology, astrogeology, even, and lots of other fields. But also astronomy speaks to a lot of technology. So in order to do astronomy, people had to invent technology, and these technologies then found applications in everyday life. So everybody always talks about the CCDs, which were actually invented for astronomy and now is used in almost every device that takes pictures. So there's also development in computing that came about as a result of needs in astronomy, development in optics, and so on. So the third side is the connection to culture and society. So astronomy has always had a deep impact on humans, and we have had a long history with the sky. So every community, every tribe, every society in the world has some history with the sky, with the stars and the planets. So it easily inspires and fascinates people, and we want to use all these things together in order to try to reach the SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals. So I'll just show a few examples of how previously funded OAD projects have done this. So in the middle there you see the 17 SDGs, and we have like various boxes pointing to some of the SDGs. So if you see SDG 4 is quality education, and we have funded projects that have used astronomy to build capacity at school level, university level, done teacher training. So these projects have actually used astronomy as a gateway to teach other subjects like mathematics or even literacy. If you see goal number 5, gender equality, so astronomy has been used to reach girls and also women, to promote science among women. So this can also be done in various ways. Then of course astronomy needs sort of observatories that are remote, away from pollution, whether it's visible or other forms of pollution. This means that astronomy observatories tend to be located in areas where there are where the region itself is not as highly developed as a big city. This actually is an opportunity for the astronomy community to to work with the people who actually live near the telescope. So we have funded an astronomy observatory program in Indonesia, which did just that. They worked with the community to understand their needs and then try to help them wherever possible. There's also astrotourism, which is linked to what I just said. People want to see these big telescopes, these marvels of technology, and there is an opportunity for tourism industry, and also in cases where these observatories are remotely located, it's an opportunity for the local community to benefit from this added tourism. So there's also astronomy for diplomacy, bringing communities together that might have conflicts or other reasons not to have, other historical reasons why they did not work together or live together. So astronomy maybe can be used as a tool in these cases to bring people together with a shared love for the sky. So these were the projects that we funded ourselves in the last 6 years or so. But there have been other efforts outside of the OAD, obviously, who have also used astronomy in various ways to benefit society. So this project called the STFC Food Network is being funded by the UK government, is trying to apply astronomy related techniques to improve food production, distribution, and so on. So astronomy is just one of the fields that is being used in this project. It's a very interdisciplinary project, but astronomers do find a prominent place. So it's actually not a very obvious link, using astronomy to solve the world's hunger crisis.
Yeah.
And there's another one that recently was in the news, using astronomy techniques. So the techniques that are used to detect stars are being applied to detect animals in wildlife conservation. So this then links to goal number 14 and 15, life below water, life on land. Again, not very non-obvious connections. So astronomy is being used in a lot of different ways. A couple more examples in this slide where it links to goal 11, sustainable cities and communities, and goal number 3, good health and well-being. So there are many different ways astronomy are being used. And again, this is not just limited to astronomy. Other fields have their own strengths that are being applied, and that can be applied in the cause of global development. So astronomers, or the people in the astronomy community, including those doing outreach, would in the future possibly have to work with people in other fields in order to find ways to use the knowledge in these fields to promote development. Okay, so we'll talk about the proposals.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So now we come to the call for proposals. So Samir mentioned there is the IAU100 call for proposals. So we have a OAD call for proposals, which is actually similar but different. So it is a two-stage call. But if you see the application form, there might be a lot of similarities. So in the OAD call, stage 1 is open to everyone. So you don't have to be an astronomer, you don't have to have an astronomy background in order to apply for this call. Then we select about 40 proposals from stage 1, and these are invited to submit a longer stage 2 application. So stage 1 is a very short application, it's maximum 2 pages. Stage 2 will be longer, and during stage 2 we actually work with the proposers. So you propose a project and you get selected for stage 2, then the OAD works with you over a month and a half or so. We also have regional offices, so there are OAD regional offices, 10 of them around the world, who are experts they know their region well. So we also rope them in whenever needed, and also we include external experts when needed, and all of us then work with you to improve the proposal. And these are then submitted to an independent committee of reviewers. So there's a list of scoring criteria that's on the website, which is used to score the proposals. And then we fund about 10-15 projects each year, and the grant size can range from a couple of thousand euros, like 3,000-4,000 euros, to 12,000-15,000 euros, in fact. So stage 1 call is now open for applications. It opened on May 1st and the deadline is May 31st. And you are welcome to apply for this call now.
So what we wanted to do through this chat is, of course, we've given some background of the proposal calls, but then we also thought that there should be more participation from our group, and so let's have a look at, because the Ram and his group has been having a lot of application process going on for a long time, and also IAU is quite a organized body, they're a very professional body. So what both of them are looking for are well written proposals. So maybe Ram, with your experience and from your group, maybe you can tell us some tips about proposal writing.
Yeah. So traditionally, we have received a lot of proposals, ranging from 150 proposals per year to 100 something proposals last year. And I have to say that traditionally, we have not received a lot of proposals from India. Maybe we have not reached to a lot of people, but even the proposals that we have received, not just from India but globally, I can say that good ideas tend to get lost somewhere in the text.
Okay.
So people are maybe not experts at writing the proposals, so they might be great at implementing the projects, but they might not have good skills in writing, or they might have a language barrier perhaps.
Okay.
So first thing I want to mention is that we do have volunteers who will help you with translation. So if you're not sure that you can write a good proposal in English, because our proposals are only in English, then we will match you up with a volunteer who can maybe help to translate from your local language.
Oh, that's lovely. Because there will be people from various parts of the world who may not know English so well, but
Exactly.
they do very good work in their locality. So this is a great advantage to have a volunteer tie-up. All right, good. So what you see is that the problem is in the writing, right?
Yeah. The writing, yeah. So which comes from a challenge in thinking. So I think people tend to start with the solution first.
Mhm.
So that's where the main challenge is. So if we have to give a process to the thinking, then I would say that you have to start from the challenge. So think about challenges in your communities or localities which you want to solve, and then think of ways in which you can use astronomy. So let's say that you think the schools in your region do not perform a good job at training students. So that's a challenge in a lot of regions. So then this is a legitimate challenge. How would you then use astronomy? Would it be sufficient to go to the school and conduct astronomy courses? But what happens after you leave the school? Or would it be better to train the teachers? But how do you then incentivize the teachers? Or would it be better to maybe change the curriculum, which is not a very easy task? So you have to think of various ways in which you can use astronomy to solve this challenge, but start from the problem, I would say.
Right. So yeah, this is just an example. There could be many such ideas which people have, but you have to think of what is the problem and how effectively your solution can solve it. Can it be a long-term sustainable solution? Can it be can it be managed within the funding that you have?
Yeah.
It's very important to think of. And who are the people that you work with? So you need to mention them. You first need to think about them first, and before you go into writing a proposal. So think of the people who will actually do the work and carry it on for a long time, and then we can go into maybe submitting a proposal. So I suggest that we go through the form for the. So here I have. Let me see. So I suggest that we look at the form for the call for proposals from the IAU100 special projects. Now let's go through the fields one by one, and some of them are of course easy. Like this, you have to show the project title. You have to talk about you have to summarize your project. Now this is key, because this is what will get the first attention from the reviewers. So you have to talk about the aims, what you will achieve, what are the potential impacts that the project will have. You will have to summarize with various beneficiaries, and then also tell about when and what will you do. but in 200 words. So this in this particular form, there's a limit for 200 words. There's also then one by one we give details like the location of where the project will be implemented, whether it's going to be local in your town, village, or city, or it's going to be on across a state or across the country. Who will be the project coordinator? This is important because that will be the first person of contact that we will have. So all details should be given, like email, etc. If there are other project members, they should be mentioned with affiliation. If your group, if it's a group or if you're an individual, you should please mention in a summary your past experiences and any demonstrated outcomes. So if you have actually done something and you've documented it previously, this will be a great advantage to your proposal if you include it. So you see, even if you haven't had such a documentation before, it is a good time that you do it this time. You will have to mention your target groups or target sectors, if at all.
As a project description, just about.
All right. Yes. So, sorry, I missed the project description. So you'll have to mention the project and describe its objectives, specific plans for project development and execution. This is not the summary of the whole project. This is about the program itself. How will you implement it? How will the development stage be, and how will the execution stage be? You'll have to mention the target groups, and of course you have to relate it to the IAU's goals and specific flagship. Of course, you have to relate it to the IAU's goals and the IAU100 flagship programs. So you will have to show that relation with the goals in 200 words, and you will have to choose one of the flagship programs from the drop-down menu which is there. You will have to explain the relation as well, because the goals are overall goals, but flagship program has a very specific theme. So which theme does it relate to and how is to be explained. This will get us more credits from the reviewers. We have to mention the project timelines. Of course, it has to be implemented in 2019, but if there is some kind of overspill, or if it's an extended project that you plan to continue after 2019 by yourself, please mention that. The deliverables have to be mentioned, and at what stages what deliverables will be there, that will be good to include. You will of course also have to include the details about how the diversity, inclusion and accessibility has been considered, and how you are targeting to give your audience all these. May I ask Ram to elaborate on this a bit?
Sure. So we also have this question in our stage 2 proposal, in fact. And here the thinking is that astronomy or science in general tends to reach those who are already passionate about science, and who want to, for example, attend a stargazing session, who want to attend a lecture, public lecture, and so on. It doesn't mean that those who didn't come are not interested in science, but there may be barriers preventing them from attending your session or your stargazing party. For example, many girls are discouraged from going to a stargazing party due to safety reasons. So when you're running an event, make sure that you consider the needs of a wide variety of audiences. For example, is your venue wheelchair accessible? For example, if you're serving food at a workshop in a school, let's say you're serving lunch, then do you cater for all kinds of food conditions? No, what is it? With the word food, food requirements of the children. Some may have allergies, for example, and when you run a workshop at a university, it may be that 80% of the audience might be male, because there is a lack of diversity in our traditional university courses, especially in the STEM fields. So do you then, let's say, have a reservation making sure that 50% of your workshop participants are female? So just
maybe
make sure.
maybe you take extra steps to get children who are poor and cannot reach your venue. So can you arrange transport for them?
Yeah.
Some such special efforts will count. So these are about events, of course, but then there might be resources which you are developing,
Exactly.
or there's some kind of other kinds of outreach programs you might be having which are not events. So are you considering all these things in your um, proposal? So that should be mentioned.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yes, importantly, you have to mention the budget that you are thinking about, and you have to mention it in euros. Is that the same for the OAD proposals?
Yeah, we also tend to have euros.
Since IAU is the headquarters are based in Europe, the funding is mostly available through euros, and therefore you have to make sure that the conversion is done and the details are mentioned in euros. If you have additional sources of funding, that will be a great advantage, because it means that you are not just looking at IAU support, but you already have committed to the program. However, IAU can support your program through its funding. So, and then this funding can also include funding from OAD. So you can apply for both of the programs and seek funding from each other. Right?
Yeah.
So that's possible to do.
Yeah. So when you have additional funding, it means that you have already convinced someone else to part with their money. So that's a big advantage.
And so, of course, you have to mention the budget requested. I mean, you may not need the complete 2,500 euros that IAU is offering. So please mention whatever budget is being requested from the IAU. Evaluation and measurements of impact are very important for us to know. So that is something you have to consider from early on, and it's best done during the proposal period itself, that you find out how your evaluation will be done. You also will find out what is the definition of project success for you. And these two things are definitely important for us to know. So please make sure that you have them clarified and written down in a document separately, and then see if they are within 200 words, and then put them in here in this form. There's also two more fields which are about ensuring project sustainability. So make sure that this project doesn't overrun the budget and then finish off because there's lack of funds, and although you started a great movement, it stops because there's no fund. So see if the sustainability is there. If it's some continued kind of activity, can it go on for many years that you wanted it to without this funding as well? So please consider that. And of course, please mention any other information which may be relevant to the project that you are doing.
So I just want to add a few more things, pointers for the proposers. If you go to question number 8, so this one is about program description, but there was an earlier question about the project summary itself. So we have seen this in the OED proposals as well, that people answer the questions, the targeted questions are answered very well. For example, when you ask who are your target audience or how will you implement this, people answer it very well. But the whole idea of the project itself does not come out properly. So the reviewers tend to be rather confused on what this project is trying to achieve. So they may say, okay, I run 3 workshops and I want to target 300 people at this time and with this budget and so on. But why are you doing all this? So it comes back to what I said before with the challenge. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? So I think the project summary should sort of encapsulate the motivations behind why this project is being done. And the question on project description number 8, this can include like the specifics of the implementation process itself, how it will be executed.
And it's also to be kept in mind that this time the IAU is looking for proposals more oriented towards grassroots levels. So it's not just overall big programs, but programs which will actually have some effect at grassroots levels. So these will carry more weightage.
I also want to add a few other things. So the other thing I want to add is the difference between outcomes and deliverables. So here on question number question number 14, it asks for deliverables, and then later on there is a question that asks for outcomes. So there are similar questions on the OAD call for proposal as well. So an outcome is what you expect to change after your project. So if you are coming back to my earlier example, if you want to improve the quality of teaching in a school, then that's an outcome. But your deliverable could be your lectures, your handouts, your presentations, or if you have any other materials. So the deliverables are the products or the materials that you will use in order to reach the desired outcome. So there tends to be confusion between the two.
So if you create and use anything, that is a deliverable, but what is the outcome is the final goal achieved.
Yeah.
So this is about the IAU 100 form. The OAD itself also has a call for proposals, so you can go to the website mentioned here, and they have, this is the stage 1 application. It looks a little different, of course, but then there are similar fields, similar kinds of information required, and this is stage 1, as Ram has mentioned. Here there are some extra. You may probably want to look at both the forms before putting in your proposal, because the OAD one has more accurate information or more targeted questions. So this may help you write the proposal for the IAU 100 as well. The strategic goals are mentioned here on the OAD website. So please make sure you first write down all the things that you are asked for in the form in a separate document, and then check for word limits, etc., and for good language, and then put them in. If you think again that English is not your best language, please try to put it in as best as possible. If you want, you can put it in your own language, and OAD at least can try to find out volunteers who can help you with translations of your project.
Yeah, but please do contact us with your translation needs at least 2 weeks before the deadline. So by the middle of May, by May 15, before May 15, let us know if you need any help with the translation.
So that brings us to some of the important points about times and other numbers. So timeline for these two are different. Now the last date for submission of the OAD proposals is?
It's May 31st. So we don't have a time zone, in fact, mentioned in the deadline. So if we usually take into consideration that people from all time zones submit to us, so we don't want to have someone in the middle of the night working
yeah.
on the
so close to May 31st.
Yeah, so end of May 31st.
End of May 31st all over the world.
Yeah. As long as it's May 31st somewhere, so you can still submit the application.
But please don't wait for May 31st. Or for the case of IAU 100, the last date is 15 June. So don't wait for the last date. Please do it early, because that helps us collect all the applications and maybe go through them a little early as well. All these projects will be looked at, and the IAU 100 projects will be notified. The ones which are selected will be notified by 30th September. How is it for the OAD?
So after May 31st, we will review the stage 1 applications. Early July, we'll send the results to everyone, and we select about 40 applications to proceed to stage 2, as I mentioned. And the deadline for stage 2 will be September 15th. And the announcements of the results will be in November.
So there's a 15 days gap between both of these. Please keep that in mind. For IAU 100, this will be the only form that you fill up, and then the proposals will be judged based on that. Now, there are a lot of criteria mentioned on the website. Please go through them. We have described you some of the things which will be asked for, but look at the criteria, whether your proposal is along those criteria lines. The grant amount, you need to know that it's 2,500 euros, 2,500 euros for the IAU 100 projects. And it's
and technically we don't have a limit for the OAD grant, but historically it has been around 10, 11, 12,000 euros or so.
That's a big amount, and you can see that if your idea is good and you think that it deserves the support from the IAU either directly or through the OAD, there is a lot of possibility through these calls. So please make sure that your proposal is good so that it is considered, and I'm sure that we will have a lot of projects accepted from India this year, right? All these things are mentioned on the websites. Please go through them. They are quite detailed, and make sure that you submit the forms at the right time. Yeah, so the website has a lot of information. Please go through them all. And we of course had a lot of fun collecting all this information and getting it to you, but now it is up to you to make use of it and write good proposals. I'm sure there are lots of good ideas floating around. Send them to the IAU and hope that they get selected. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you.